Welcome to Beacon of Creation, a weekly podcast on game design through the lens of Magic the Gathering. I'm Tim.
I'm Juliet.
We've got another part of our challenge review for our June design challenge. This is where we get a bunch of submissions from the audience. We talk about them, we go deep. We're going to be talking about 8 cards today, but we're probably going to spend, maybe 10 minutes on each of them. So we're really looking to dig in and figure out what makes each of these cards tick. But in order to really understand what we're reviewing, we also kind of need to know what the challenge was.
Sure. Our June design challenge is in our very Greek theme, haughty Juno. Design a hatebear for curtailing a particular strategy, like limiting, stopping, taxing, protecting, countering, sacrificing. And we're also going to be thinking about, okay, what strategy? How does this play in your deck, and what does it do to your opponent's decks and that sort of thing? Then we've got some optional bonus points here, which are Arms and the Man I Sing, give the card a musical theme, and Who Forced by Fate, that this card interacts with or can be cast from or enters from exile.
A couple of things we started to, triangulate on in the first episode. One of those was how much is this a thing that slows down strategies versus one that enables strategies? We had a card in the last episode that prevented discard. Well, preventing discard actually allows me to play a bunch of cards more powerfully, while also maybe stopping a couple strategies. So we have sort of this balance between, hate bear versus enabler. And then we also have the beariness of it. How close is it to a 2/2, a creature that can sit on the board, progress the game a little bit, maybe attack for 2, attack for 4, attack for 6, something like that. How much can it make the game end while it's slowing down the opponent?
Our first submission is from Kieran. It's Train, Giant of Fast Changes. It's 5 generic mana for a mythic legendary artifact creature giant that's a 0/0 on its power and toughness. But, of course, it's 5 generic mana. It has modular 5, and whenever a player casts a spell, note the colors of mana spent to cast it. Until the beginning of your next upkeep, spells that share a noted color cost 1 more to cast. And then it's got an adventure that you can cast, so you can cast the adventure and then cast this card. The adventure is Giant Steps, and it has what I might think of as is it the Reaper King style of mana cost? It's Wooburg Tubrid, which is sure a pair of words that make sense to everyone in the audience.
Yep.
2 or white, 2 or blue, 2 or black, 2 or red, 2 or green.
Yeah.
For a sorcery adventure with improvise and add white, blue, black, red, green. Add 5 mana in the Wooburg colors.
That's a lot of stuff. So let's break down what the card actually, how it functions before we try to get to some of the later analysis. So 5 mana, modular 5. So modular means it's going to enter with 5 +1/+1 counters on it. And then modular means also when this creature dies, you can put those counters on another artifact creature. So this is just to start with, I would say modular cards that have kind of square stats, stats equal to their mana cost are good cards, as a baseline. So 5 mana, 5/5 that hands off 5/5 when it dies. That's a good starting point. That's a thing that at least in limited or something you'd be happy to be playing. So there's the hate bear clause on it, which I think we'll break down last, because that's actually you have to know the rest of the card before this totally makes sense. The other piece to this is the adventure part, which doesn't do that much by itself, I guess I would say. So if you just are trying to cast this adventure, you could pay Wooburg to add Wooburg. That doesn't necessarily do that much by itself. You could pay 6 colorless and red green and get Wooburg. That's maybe something I might want. Again, we're not quite getting there yet. The other piece that this adventure side has is it has improvise, which is kind of like convoke but for artifacts. So if I have 4 artifacts at play, I could tap 4 artifacts, spend 3 color mana, and get Wooburg back. So I can sort of filter my artifacts into Wooburg kind of thing. So those are the kind of other base parts of the card before we get into the actual hate bear part.
And you could also, if you have 10 artifacts, cast Giant Steps for free and just turn 10 artifacts into 5 mana, if that's useful. The ability on the creature component of this card Whenever a player casts a spell, note the colors of mana spent to cast it. To the beginning of your next upkeep, spells that share a noted color cost 1 more to cast. So if you potentially have, let's say, 2 of these, harkening back to last month's design challenge, involving, artifacts that can produce mana and have an adventure, and you want multiple of. If you have one of these out as a creature, and then you cast the adventure of another copy of it, because it's note the colors of mana spent to cast it, not the colors of the card. So you would need to spend the Wooburg in order to literally say all spells that are white, blue, black, red, or green cost one more to cast. I suppose colorless spells are still free in that space. But if you're also just casting a totally colorless card, you can spend, hey, I'm going to spend blue, black, green for this. And maybe I want to color wash into Giant Steps mana because I don't have blue and black. I want to be taxing my opponent's blue and black things. Or maybe I'm playing some extra lands or things that can help me, like Shimmering Grotto to a specific color. So I can tax that in that way. The other kind of interesting thing here is because it's whenever a player casts a spell, this will limit your opponent's sequencing if they have a lot of the same color or 2 colors, such that if you're casting a red spell, great. Red spells are going to be more expensive. And then if you're casting a red-blue spell, okay, great. Your red spells or your blue. If you're wanting to do expressive iteration or similar like red-blue, 2 mana card advantage card, Goblin Electromancer, like any of these sort of things that you might play in something where you want to cast multiple spells a turn, suddenly these things are taxed more. So you are countering a lot of cost reduction things like a Goblin Electromancer, like a Ruby Diamond.
Maybe that's the level 1 of what this card does, is it prevents or it makes it harder for your opponent to cast 2 spells in the same turn if they overlap at all in terms of colors. Because like even if I cast a 1 and a red spell and that 1 is paid with a green mana, I've now made red and green spells more expensive. So it's a kind of a nice way to slow down any kind of like multiple play cards for your opponent. If on my turn, I then have this like artifacty deck that still like uses a bunch of different colors of mana. This was to me sort of like the original Meriden Limited, where you'd have a bunch of colorless cards, but you had a bunch of colored mana so that you could maybe sunburst things. I can start to make sure I'm generating the same colors of mana that my opponent's using, and then cast my spells with that color. And then, like, if I notice my opponent is red and green, they're Gruul, then I'll just like make sure I'm generating red and green mana and casting my 2 mana, 3 mana, 4 mana spells with that stuff. And I believe this could stack on top of itself the way that it's written. So if I cast 2 2-mana spells, each with red and green, I can make it really hard for my opponent to cast spells on their next turn because either their red or their green spells are going to be more expensive.
Yeah. And the way taxing can either just limit an opponent's options down to whatever their cheapest spell in hand is, or cause them to skip a turn entirely, really incentivizes your deck construction being kind of creatively set up so that you aren't stopping yourself. Because if I'm trying to go red, green, spells that share a noted color. So if I'm casting like 2 mana colorless mana rock into 2 mana colorless mana rock, and I spend red green for both stack to tax but don't tax each other, I think, because it's noting the colors of mana spent to cast and taxing the spell's color.
I maybe I want to play all colorless cards if I can, or as close to all colorless cards as I can. I have maybe a little bit of room to have a couple colorful spells, but if I'm casting multiple spells, I want the later ones to be artifacts. And as long as I'm doing that, and as long as I'm generating a lot of colors of mana, I could get a lot of effect out of this creature.
This card to me really feels like it is missing one big word that will help just kind of cohere together as a whole.
Sure.
And that is, instead of modular 5, I want this to be modular M-Sunburst.
Hmm. Oh yeah.
which which we did see in original
Yeah.
Fifth Dawn with Arcbound Wanderer,
Mhm.
which was a modular sunburst card. And that way, sometimes this would be a 2/2 if you're just casting it for two colors of mana.
Yeah, I felt the desire to have this be sunbursty as well,
Hmm.
especially because the left half of the card is all about a lot of colors of mana. It feels like
Hmm.
that's why I'd bother to cast Giant Steps.
Uh-huh.
I don't know that casting Giant Steps has a lot of use as it is right now, because, if I'm already got 4 artifacts in play, I don't know. I hope my deck's already doing something and that I'm not just like slightly enabling myself by having 4 artifacts in play. Like, being able to use this improvise to get ahead on mana is kind of tough. It's almost like half power in improvise because I need 2 artifacts per discount.
Hmm.
I mean, I guess part of the reason you have the adventure on here is because you want to just strengthen the reference. This is like the song Giant Steps. Da, 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 da,
Hmm.
da, da, da.
Yeah, this as you mentioned is a homage, I suppose, to John
Yeah.
Coltrane,
Yeah.
classic, deeply influential to
Sure.
jazz music as a
Hmm.
whole, saxophonist. Giant Steps, the name of the adventure. I think the way I would describe it for our audience would be, you might recognize this as in a Cowboy Bebop episode, the type of music that plays when Spike is piloting the swordfish,
Yeah. Yeah.
like, and they're doing like an aerial combat
Yeah.
thing, and it's that high energy, quick moving
Yeah.
bebop sort of jazz. That's Giant Steps
Yeah.
to me.
Song still rips, so go listen to it
Mhm.
now. This is a cool card. I think that it encourages the thing that I have not seen a lot of, but that I enjoyed, which is the like colorless deck that can produce a lot of different colors of mana.
Mhm.
Playing into that, and it's a little tracky. I have to probably get out some dice or something to show what the different, people have little mana tracking sheets where they put dice on each different color of mana. I feel
Mhm.
like you need one of those guys for train
Yeah,
here.
just print out a third one, and you
Yeah,
can have a different color dice.
yeah. Maybe the thing that makes it really work to me is that the tax lasts until the beginning of your next upkeep. So it's this thing
Mhm.
that you have to like try to keep up yourself. You have to kind of actively renew the tax on your opponent, but in a way that's probably fun. This creature's big, it's doing stuff. Your opponent's trying to answer it, but they can't answer it because all their stuff is just so expensive. And even if they do answer it, you just dump it on another creature, continue hitting your opponent. So I can see this playing out in a very satisfying way.
And absolutely hits the bonus points. You got an adventure,
Oh
so
yeah.
it's entering from exile. Absolutely a musical theme. It fits
Mhm.
the bonus points even better than it fits the the main challenge. Though I think it can be
Yeah.
adopted in, because it's certainly doing that taxing.
Hmm. Hmm. All right, next up from Xena. This is Arnold Schonbear. I don't know, Schoenbear.
Hmm.
Blue and a red for a 2/2. So we got 2 mana 2/2. Legendary creature, human werebear. Non-creature spells cost 1 less to cast. Whenever a spell is cast from anywhere but exile, it's exiled with 1d4 time counters on it. It gains suspend. It's got daybound, which means it has another side, and it means that like the typical like werewolf flipping inactivity, 2 spells a turn kind of stuff, flips it back and forth. On the back, we've got Great Fur Terror. That's a legendary creature bear. It's a 4/4. It has hexproof, prowess, and prowess, so double prowess. When the last time counter is removed from a card with suspend, its owner must cast it, and has nightbound. All right, there's a lot going on here. Let's break down each side. What do you want to start with?
I want to start with that last element because it is a reflection of a relatively recent thing in the rules, which
Hmm.
is that now when a card comes off of suspend, its owner can choose whether to cast it.
Hmm.
Because when suspend was first printed, it was a must, which is why you have the like really really iconic plays around the card Physis.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah.
uh,
Assist or
and
whatever. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. And so this is a fun, it's like when a card says actually mana burn is real. Uh,
Yeah.
or things like that. It's like, okay, here
Yeah.
we're gonna readapt in that way. But
Yeah.
now that said, let's start at the top of the front face, the
Hmm.
the
Hmm.
Arnold Schoenberg.
At first, we start with like not a hate bear, but non-creature spells cost less to cast.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that applies to everybody. That's not your spells. But maybe the reason that we're allowing this is because whenever spells cast from anywhere but exile, it's exiled with 1d4 time counters. 1d4 is kind of D&D notation for roll a four-sided die and take that result. So whenever a spell is cast from anywhere but exile, it's slowed down by 1 to 4 turns. And then it gains suspend. That means that, that's just the mechanic that allows it to kind of tick down. Oh, it's got 3 time counters, then 2 the next turn, then 1 the next turn, then it comes off suspend. Things are a little cheaper to get started, which means they get thrown into suspend a little bit earlier, but they are going to be suspended for some amount of time. Whether you want to play into that or not, I guess is sort of like a deck building or play decision by you as the person playing this card. Do you want to try to cast your spells from exile using, red exile draw or whatever? You can do that and you can skip the suspend. Or you can say, you know what, I just want to get a bunch of spells in the air. I'm going to cast as many 2-mana spells as I can for 1 mana. And then when they fire off, I don't really care. I just want some chaos. I want to go nuts. Maybe the tricky rules thing about this card to me is I think it still counts as casting the spell when you initially send it to exile. Whenever a spell is cast from anywhere but exile, then exile, blah, 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 blah. So in terms of daybound, nightbound, you're still in kind of a funny situation where when you want to flip a werewolf, you want to do nothing for a turn. But even putting spells into exile, keeps it daytime. I don't know if you necessarily want that behavior, though. That actually seems like the opposite of what you want for a werewolf. You want the werewolf to have a chance of flipping.
Mm-hmm. You want the werewolf to have a chance of flipping, but figuring out when you want to be taxing versus hitting somebody in the face with this, it may just work out like structurally. Hey, I'm going to delay things as much as possible, and then when it naturally flips, I'm trying to think through. So daybound, it's cast nothing that it flips, right? And then night, it becomes night on nothing, day on 2. So becomes night because nothing, and then everything resolves as your prowess. So you're ideally hitting in with like a 10/10 hexproof card. So okay, now thinking about the front face suspend and the back face hexproof, now this, when the last time counter is removed from a card with suspend, its owner must cast it, like, makes a little more sense. Your opponent may just decide not to cast any removal spells or anything, but they might go, hey, I'm going to hope that I can remove Arnold Schoenberg. And then you've got a Great Fur Terror. The card comes off of suspend, and it goes, oh, I have to remove my own creature because your bear has hexproof.
I was complaining that like the daybound was hard to do when you wanted to because of the exile thing. But maybe the thing you do is you spin up a spell or two, your opponent spins up a spell or two, and if you see a removal spell is about to come off suspend, you just say, I pass. And then you turn into Great Fur Terror. Your guy can't be hit with a removal spell. So you get to sort of see that a removal spell is coming and then take your turn off. And that's why, you're happy playing this daybound card in like a Spellslinger deck. And maybe this is like the one creature your spells deck is riding to victory, in like a Delver of Secrets kind of way.
Oh, I want to play this alongside Counterbalance or other like enchantment counter spells, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. Seals kind of stuff, yeah.
Yeah, there are too many magic cards. Fun art, blue card, kind of a parallel to Runed Halo. Declaration of Not, a random Morningtide rare.
Oh, hell yeah.
For blue, it's an enchantment. As Declaration of Not enters, name a card, and then you spend blue to counter target spell with that name. And so, if I'm suspending this in, I'm hunky dory. I'm fine. Hypothetically, I can name a card, and now I will always have 1 blue mana available to counter whenever it comes off of suspend or something. I think that's
$16. What are the sickos doing with this card?
It's never been reprinted. I'm sure it's useful
Name a
like
commander. Oh, top
exactly.
commander Baral. Okay, freaks. I see what you're doing.
Yeah. There's a piece of tech here from Xena that I want to take even further.
Okay.
I am a fan of werebears. I think
Okay.
they are really interesting.
Yeah.
Xena here introduces werebear as a type, human werebear on the front,
Yeah.
and then just bear on the back.
Mm-hmm.
I want to go further. I want were to be a type.
Mm.
So it goes human, were, bear.
3 type.
And then werewolves can be were, wolf. And that way all of your like wolf typal, wolf kindredy sort of stuff doesn't have to say wolf and werewolf.
Yeah.
Because werewolves are wolf. I know that's not exactly how we use these words in our lean, unlovely English speech, but I think that's what I want to make it easier for us to do. Werebears, snakes, rat. Gotta love a rat. Bats are fascinating stuff.
So you're thinking, hey, let's errata all the cards that say like transform all were creatures you control. Were creatures you control get +1/+0 and have trample.
Mm-hmm. Or the pre-existing ones would say something like were space wolf if you don't want to like empower them in the past, and then the new printed ones would say like were creatures and wolves or something like that. Flavor text on the front of this. Often enough, inspiration intervenes spontaneously. I don't really know the works of Arnold Schoenberg in like personally. That isn't something that's come up in my art history or music theory sort of practice. But a certainly influential composer and music theorist who's being kind of punned on here. I think Schoenberg to Schoenberg.
Oh, okay. Oh, interesting. Xena has something. They had a little clarification after the actual card. The spell's exiled before counting for day nightbound, so it counts when it's cast from exile. I might have written that wrong, but that's the intent. Interesting. So I did call that out where the way that it's written currently, it would count towards daybound nightbound whenever a spell is cast from anywhere but exile. The spell would go on the stack, it would exist on the stack, and then this thing would trigger and remove it from the stack. So it would count towards daybound nightbound. If you wanted to word that differently, you could say something like, if a spell would be cast instead, that would capture the spell before it hits the stack and allow it to like zoom straight into exile without counting for daybound nightbound. So you can get the effect that Xena was actually looking for, but you just have to word it a little bit differently than they ended up wording it. And actually, it's great to have that feedback on there. If you think of things possible in the magic rules, but you're not quite sure how to word it, throw it in those design notes so we can talk about that too. Great addition.
Yeah. And you can put that in plain text or as we see here in spoiler brackets, so we can read a card and then check the notes as well. How do you feel about a front face blue-red, spending blue-red for this creature, and then the back face of it being green, like mono green?
Yeah, it feels like, I mean, hexproof prowess. The double prowess is not a green thing, so the greenness is kind of debatable to me, or maybe just flavor. Like, we're trying to convey that, like, I guess if you make the colors totally different, you're trying to convey that this person does not retain their like human thoughts when they're in their animal form. Like that's part of what the color change tells me. Because like if it's like is it bear like that? A blue red bear to me is a bear that still has like it's Smart Hulk. You know what I mean? Like he still wears glasses and he still can like think and whatever else. If he goes from blue red into green, that's saying maybe not that all green characters are mindless, but like it's sort of saying like, hey, I am reverting or changing into a different thing. I have different thoughts. I work differently. I don't necessarily even remember that I was a bear on the backside there.
Yeah. Fun to have the bear component because, you know, the front side is a 2-mana 2/2 and the back side is a bear.
Definitely disrupts your opponent.
Yeah. All comes together for all the bonus points. Our next submission is from Pat, or Patsune Biku, which is, I think, relevant to the source for part of this card.
Oh, okay.
The card is Dazzling Idol. It's white, so 2 white mana for a 2/2 creature human performer at rare. With creatures with power less than this creature's power, enter tapped. Whenever you cast a spell from exile, choose one. Put a +1/+1 counter on this creature. Put a stun counter on target creature.
2 mana 2/2. When you cast spells from exile, you get to make it bigger or stun your opponent's stuff. Both of those are pretty good. This card doesn't provide a way to put things in exile or whatever as it is. So this is like a component of like an overall strategy rather than like a bring your own strategy kind of card. Casting spells from exile in white is like not a naturally easy thing to do. If this were red, that would be really easy to do. So you're working a little bit hard to like power this idol up. But in exchange, once you get like 2 or 3 counters on this, your opponent's all their stuff is entering tapped. Maybe you're even stunning them further because creatures with power less than this creature's power enter tapped. That starts out as just like your opponent's 1 power creatures enter tapped. But if you get that up to 2 or 3, you're really starting to make a difference. Now you're starting to pay off. You're starting to run over an opponent. If there's a limited strategy, like a blue-white or a blue-red strategy in limited of casting stuff from exile, this could be one of the workhorses that really puts the screws on your opponent.
Yeah. I like how simple and connected the elements of the card are.
Yeah.
The creatures with power less than this and creatures with power less than this creature's power enter tapped. And so being able to have as the modes for the whenever you cast a spell from exile, either we increase the power on this, therefore increasing the number of or the range of creatures that can be made to enter tapped, or we're prolonging the enter tappedness by adding the stun counters. Like that simplicity kind of says we can do it more often or we can do it more intensely depending on what we need to do to answer your opponent's stuff. Do they have a Hydroid Crisis sort of setup, or do they have, infinite 1/1 that they are trying to address you with?
I know exactly what I want this card to do. It's my job as the deck builder to find a way to bring it to life. Because it is, like you said, good against a variety of things once you start doing the thing it wants to do. Casting things from exile does have that sort of improvisational. I mean, we've seen it in some of these submissions, but also other cards where, like, casting from exile represents unpredictability. That could be very musical. You could imagine the person who wants to play the performer deck, the like idol deck. Part of that is like being swept away by something you don't see coming, and the flavor of this card works pretty well for that too.
Yeah. Also, I said Hydroid Crisis like I always do. I mean Bounding Crisis. Every time I say Hydroid Crisis, I mean Bounding Crisis. They're all arbitrary, weird fish hydroids for blue and green, gold stuff. I think I can... The listener, forgive me.
We understand from an outsider to the Civic Guild that we all look the same, but I could tell you that we're truly different, each of us. Even if it just looks like we're ramping to 1,000 and drawing 20 cards.
In the same way that I historically have always said Bloom Hulk when I mean Protean Hulk.
There you go.
The many types of weird Simic cards.
Fair enough.
This art is from Hatsune Miku, Colorful Stage, which Pat's also used a few times in the Popcorn. Fun collaborative design project that we've been doing in the Discord, that once this episode comes out, I believe we will be in the refining stage. The submissions will be closed on, but I'm really, really curious to see where that will go. And it's been a fun source of a very different kind of style of art. It's fun to get music idols and I think more feminine anime sort of stuff that we occasionally see in secret layers. I think almost exclusively. I think there was even a Miku secret layer that I'm sure those cards are very, very expensive now.
Anime Planeswalkers, we sometimes get those, yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if in the fullness of time that's something that Magic explores in a set sort of context, because I think it translates certainly well enough to the like the magic card sort of frame or format.
Yeah, we've seen a couple different music themed custom sets, but yeah, I think you're right. At some point, we got to see the canon music set.
Mm-hmm. You can check out the big collaborative set that came out at the end of last Mocktober, I think. One of the versions of that was about idols and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, thanks for the submission. We got exile, we got music, we've got a bear. It all comes together.
Excellent. Next up from Rexer 3, we've got Virgil, Rewriter of Tales. So 1 a white for a 2/2, so super classic bear size. Legendary creature, human bard. It has flash. It has whenever an opponent would put a counter on a permanent they control, destroy that permanent unless they pay 2. And then it also has foretell for a white mana. Foretell means during your turn, you can pay 2 mana and exile this card from your hand face down. Cast it on a later turn for its foretell cost. So you could pay basically extra, 2 now, 1 later, but for the privilege of being able to, stick this in for 1 mana on the perfect turn to really mess up an opponent.
I want to, of course, cite the flavor that's going on here. Virgil, from Nel mezzo del cammin di nostra vita. Or more specifically, from Arms and the Man I Sing, Who Forced by Fate, and Hati Juno's Unrelenting Hate.
Okay.
The writer of the Aeneid, from which we get the name of this whole design challenge and its bonus points.
We're actually trying to get some of those Juliet bonus points by writing in Latin or something on this card.
Yeah. I would say one of the more famous Latin phrases.
Oh, okay.
You could, in the era when I went to high school at least, don't know if that's still a thing. You remember AP tests?
Sure, yeah.
You could take an AP test on this specific book.
Oh,
an AP test, the AP Latin that is like exclusively about the Aeneid and like how well can you handle and parse and work with this as like the rest of your Latin stuff as a like here's the way to test your Latin abilities.
Wow, nice.
Mm-hmm. But looking at the mechanical side of the card, since Plot came out, I've always been interested in where and when we might use Foretell in a post-Plot world.
Yeah.
Foretell being the hidden version of Plot, I guess, for lack of a better word.
Yeah. Foretell maybe is a little bit better for an answer kind of card like this, a card that's trying to stop your opponent because they don't see it coming. Whereas like maybe Plot is a little bit more, I dare you to stop me. Like here's this thing that I'm nakedly going to be doing in a turn or 2.
Yeah.
For something like this, whenever an opponent would put a counter on a permanent they control, blah, 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 blah. The most obvious like compulsive counter, I guess I would say, is a saga, right? A saga that's just going to put counters on itself no matter what. And this is like Rewriter of Tales. So this seems to be saying, I can cut off your saga early unless you pay like kind of a big cost, 2 mana. A big part of a saga is that you might be paying like an upfront 3 or 4 mana, but you're going to be getting like basically 3 mini spells over the course of 3 turns. I get Virgil out before, in time for the second thing, I can derail that whole plan. I can really put the screws in my opponent's mana base by forcing them to pay extra.
Yeah. And if I have this foretold and my opponent taps out for a planeswalker, now suddenly they have to figure out, okay, I want to plus this planeswalker, but instead I need to 0 loyalty ability or minus it in order to not open it up because, well, I tapped out for this, I don't know, Jace the Mind Sculptor or whatever, for, Nahiri, because I want to be doing a big thing or something. Who knows what. And if they plus whatever that planeswalker is, you can just go, okay, Virgil's entering, you tapped out, your planeswalker is destroyed. And if you don't plus, then maybe I decide to flash Virgil in and then attack into your planeswalker next turn, perhaps, which is more vulnerable because you didn't plus it. I think that would be a sequencing thing that I wouldn't be surprised by.
Yeah, and if this is sort of the bodyguard of like, I'm going to jump in if someone casts a planeswalker that has like -3, destroy target creature or whatever, right? This can jump in and say, you can't plus anymore, or you can't plus this turn, just destroy me. And then like, oh, well, yeah, I've actually done a pretty good job of slowing down a planeswalker. My 2-mana creature was a big speed bump for a 4-mana planeswalker, and then it's only got 1 loyalty left. Maybe I can attack it with some other creature.
I don't actually know, now that I say all of this about planeswalkers, because loyalty stuff is a cost, you might need to get Virgil in before they choose to activate. Yeah, okay. So that makes me then think back to what you're saying about sagas, which this being a way of taxing or changing sagas ties into the flavor of Virgil Rewriter of Tales in a really, really dominant way. So that makes a lot of sense.
I think there's another rules thing that I don't know the answer to off the top of my head, which is what happens if this is in play and my opponent casts a saga? They just like stumble in and play a saga. The saga enters with a counter, right? Would that immediately basically say, hey, guess what? Your saga immediately gets blown up?
I think so, because of the way hardened scales works, right?
If you would put a counter on a blah, blah, blah. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And I'm pretty sure hardened scales does see creatures that enter with a +1/+1 counter.
Yeah, because that is also a replacement effect. If one or more +1/+1 counters would be put on a creature you control, that many +1 are put instead. So if blah, 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 instead blah, 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 blah.
It's possible that the whenever on Virgil would or wouldn't see a saga, but a saga does enter and then you put a counter on it, right? Because that's how the first ability triggers, because the ability triggers when the counter is put on it.
Yeah, that's true. Like the saga mechanics have to see a counter be put on a saga to trigger an ability.
Yeah.
So this would sort of like counter a saga, or mana leak a saga, I guess.
This would also be, I think, relevant in hardened scales style, or against a hardened scales dominant sort of format, or things that involve Arcbound Ravager, Ozolith, different stuff where you want to be just keeping moving your counters around. And oh, my creature died. Well, hey, shout out to modular. I can put those counters on another of my creatures, or I can put those counters on one of these non-creature permanents that can like store the counters for a little bit. I can do Agatha's Soul Cauldron and like put that counter on a Walking Ballista or something like that. And Virgil says, hey, slow your roll. I'm going to keep just blowing up everything, oh, blew up your creature and a counter went on it, and now you're modularing onto another thing. Gonna blow that up too if you don't have a specific and direct answer to Virgil.
This is like firmly in hatebear territory. 2-mana 2/2, very berry. It like is, I would say, quite devastating against a decent swath of cards. Planeswalkers, sagas, +1/+1 counter themes. There are a bunch of other cards that randomly hits, like, I don't know, a shield counter or something. But like it has 3 reasonable, I guess, prey, like targets. So I think the hate berryness of this is maybe the highest of the cards we've reviewed so far. Like it's like really effective against a variety of things, and also can progress the game, and also has flexibility with that flash. So yeah, very, very hate berry.
Bringing it in against like Heliod combo, sort of like spike feeder things. All sorts of combos historically have involved counters somewhere in the process. And I mean, even we don't play it, but like Tendo Ice Bridge, Vivid Lands with their counters, like you would also want to look through spells that you control that say your opponent puts a counter on rather than like you put a counter on. Whether that's like blight stuff or just like, hey, get this discounted effect. Your opponent puts +1/+1 counters on their creatures. I think there's some.
Yeah, some downsidey cards. Yeah, that give away counters. Sure. Yeah. Very cool. Really complete card.
Fits all the bonus points. I think this is certainly musical enough for me.
Plus a bard. That's just guarantees the bonus points, right?
Yeah, I think bard and like epic poetry is a relative of musical.
Okay.
Our next submission is from Plumtree Chloe. It's Intrusion Investigator. For 2 mana, that's 1 and a white. It's a 2/2 creature human detective. Whenever a planeswalker activates a loyalty ability, tap it. Tapped planeswalkers cannot activate loyalty abilities. If a tapped planeswalker would be dealt damage, instead, it takes double that much damage. After the curtain fell, the only source of sound was off-world. I'm going to read the lore and notes here because I think they're useful at the top.
Okay.
Lore: a Ravnican detective watches for ripples in water that reveal a planeswalker's movements. And notes: intended for a walker-heavy set where various worlds are cracking down on interplanar travel. The counterweight to Aether Drift and to the Omen Paths is like, hey, actually, planeswalkers keep destroying our home/reality.
Yeah. We got to go isolationist mode. All right. This is one of the funny things because I feel like tapping planeswalkers is like one of my biggest Magic game system grudges, I guess, or things that I'm the most dissatisfied with. Because I want planeswalkers to tap when you use them, because so often with planeswalkers, people say like, did I activate this turn? And we have a thing built into the game that's really good at tracking whether something's been used this turn. And they just don't, planeswalkers don't tap. Why don't they tap? Ugh. So this this card does not address that complaint of mine, but it does like use an unused component of planeswalkers being tapped to track something about them. The first 2 abilities, before you get to the third ability, I was kind of confused by this thing. Whenever a planeswalker activates a loyalty ability, tap it. Tap planeswalkers cannot activate loyalty abilities. That doesn't do anything, right? Like those 2 by themselves, like, so you tap that planeswalker after it's already activated, and then by the time it can activate again, it is already untapped again.
Unless you have exactly the Chain Veil, is that the one?
Oh, yeah, or like the Teferi that can, or flipped Urza that can activate 2 abilities. Yeah,
sure.
So the tappedness is really just to track whether this third clause kicks in. If a tap planeswalker would be dealt damage, takes double that damage, which I think is a cool ability. I guess I'm just wondering what the middle ability does, because if it was just the first and third ability, that would still do everything we're trying to do here. I guess unless you're somehow also stunning planeswalkers or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I do think I agree with that. I also would potentially suggest making, whenever a planeswalker activates a loyalty ability, tap it to being as an additional cost to, like, loyalty abilities have an additional cost of tap.
Oh, okay.
That goes in the cost, such that if you have the ability to activate more than once, no, you can't, because tapping is a cost you can't pay twice. Whereas this, if you have the ability to activate more than once, like, you need that second ability, and not that activating more than once is going to happen. I do think this kind of implies that you might be seeing stun counters or other skip your upkeep skip your untap step sort of thing. Only untap lands, like some effects like that.
Chloe also included basically like a hand-drawn or handwritten version of the card that is worded the way that we're talking about. Loyalty abilities of planeswalkers cost tap more to activate.
Oh,
like
there we
that
go.
was like written draft of the card. Maybe there's some rules thing that I don't quite absorb here.
Yeah, I should have read the handwritten first.
I think there's a lot of functionality to this last ability. Like I'm a fan of this technology, dealing double damage to planeswalkers. I want to put deals double damage to planeswalkers on like 3 more cards. Like I think this is like a worthy thing that is like a very fun answer to planeswalkers that is still interactive. It doesn't just like, it's not destroy target planeswalker. I don't have to work quite as hard to get out from behind like a 6 loyalty planeswalker, which normally is sort of game ending.
Mhm. I like also that because of how it interacts with this, there is counterplay. I mean, you could have a bear that just said, like, creatures deal double damage to planeswalkers, or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Creatures attacking planeswalkers of double strike even could be a thing that you look at. But this specifically says, if you are worried about an attack coming into your planeswalker, maybe take a turn off from activating that planeswalker. Maybe you activate it once, and then once Intrusion Investigator enters, you're like, I'm actually going to wait to use this again until I'm ready for it to be my last activation, or something like that. It's a very silly thing. This is hypothetically weaker than just creatures deal double damage to planeswalkers. But because it can make your opponent go, maybe I don't activate this planeswalker, like, that can actually be better for you than dealing double damage. Like, you're giving your opponent chances to make the wrong, like, spiky decision in a positive way. And I think that plays really neatly with planeswalker abilities cost tap more to activate.
Yeah, the little counterplay-ish, that's what we want on cards. Like, hey, I've got this thing that gets an advantage against you. Oh, you have a thing that can work against that, back and forth. Get some swingy action going. Very cool.
I wonder if Discord put images before text instead of text before images. If we would have read the image first and then, you know what I mean? Like, that's just a silly thing about how this particular format entails when there's an image and a text in the same post. It appends one after the other.
There you go. All right, next up, we've got a card from Dragon of the West.
Of the West!
It's Solemn Canter. White for a 2/2. So 2-mana 2/2. Creature elf cleric. Counters and effects don't modify creature's power and toughness. So +1/+1 counters, effects don't work. Giant Growth doesn't work. Glorious Anthem doesn't work. What counts as an effect?
I think Giant Growth is an effect, right? Play X random effects in the Chandelar style.
Thanks for using Chandelar as the way to understand this. Aswan Jaguar or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That is the first thing that comes to mind for the word effect in a Magic text, right? Like,
let's make sure that no one under 30 can possibly understand our references, please.
Okay, I've got another one for you then.
Okay.
Shout out to playing this with the Hatchling cycle from Eventide.
All right.
Who enter with 4 -1/-1 counters each.
Oh, there you go.
The -1/-1 counters don't affect them, so those are all now 4 mana 6/6s with them upside.
There's a bunch of those in the new Lorwyn set too that we could reference. That start with a bunch of counters and basically grow their way out of them. But yeah, let's start with the hatchlings.
I think all of those are 2 or 1 counters. There's an elf that's 3. Oh, I was forgetting about
Bristlebane Battler.
Bristlebane Battler 5.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. I should bite my tongue then about doubting the number of -1/-1 counters on silly
Moonshadow.
Shadow.
Moonshadow comes out as a 7/7 out of the gate.
Oh, yeah. You're so right.
You haven't been watching enough Aspiring Spike. How did you not think of Moonshadow? I'm just kidding.
I've said it before, I'm gonna say it again. There are too many Magic cards. If they would just print fewer Magic cards, then I could have spent like 3 months with Lorwyn Eclipsed instead of 3 weeks, and I would actually know all of these cards. The other thing I need to do is I need to like sit down and do my like Jumpstart remix / total redesign of Lorwyn Eclipsed, and then I will know every card, like, because I've gotten like elbow deep into the mix.
Alrighty. Yeah, so Solemn Canter.
Yeah, back to this card.
The -1/-1 counter thing does seem like one of the spicier things I can do with this. This is also a technology card to me. Just thinking of what effects are and what effects do.
Okay. What happens if you have a card like Superior Spider-Man or kind of earlier ones that says this is a copy of that creature, except this one is a 4/4, or this one is a 1/1, or that sort of thing. Does the copy change? Like,
Is copying an effect? Like, just let's simplify it. Clone enters as a copy of another creature. Like, choose a creature and enters as a copy as that. Clone is a 0/0. Is it modify? Like, is an effect modifying its power and toughness? I don't know. Is copying an effect? I think copying must be an effect because it's part of the layers, right? So layers would imply that's an effect, right?
Yeah.
Let me look at layers for a second, and I'll think about it.
I also, because this only affects creatures, I'd be fascinated to see something like a vehicle that has a whole bunch of counters. It's like, well, that vehicle has a very modified power and toughness, and then as soon as it becomes a creature, all of the other effects, all of the like vehicles you control get +2/+2 enchantment that you have, like any of that stuff, just it becomes much more solemn, much more cantor, much more clear as soon as it becomes a creature.
All right, gamers, we're going to talk about layers for a second here.
So if you have solemn cantor and humility, both out.
Yeah, if you lose the I'm looking at the layers, and there's something that's interesting that I don't know if it's just English language usage or if these are, situations where we're defining the meaning of a word to be specific to Magic. The first couple layers, so like copy effects, copy like we talked about with clone, control changing effects, type changing effects, color changing effects. That's a bunch of the layers. And then there's like a whole section of layers that have a bunch of sub layers that are power and toughness changing effects. Once you've figured out clones and colors and all that kind of stuff, ability granting, now you have power and toughness changing effects. And those happen in a certain order. First, a characteristic defining effect. So like a star is the number of creatures in your graveyard. Effects that set power and toughness to a specific value. So that's like Superior Spider-Man, like you're talking about. It's a copy, except that it's a 4/4. Then the next layer after that, now we get to debate. Is it English language or is it loaded Magic meaning? Effects that modify power and toughness, but don't set to a specific value. And then the layer after that is counters that modify power and toughness, and then effects that switch, blah, 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 blah. So there are two sub layers in layer 7 that specifically use the word modify. And so now we get to throw all of our analysis, potentially out the window of, does this card only affect layers 7C and 7D? Or does this affect anything that changes the power, like anything in 7? And does it affect things outside of 7, like copy effects?
What is the power and toughness of a Tarmogoyf when Solemn Cantor is out?
Yeah, that is like as a characteristic defining effect. Tarmogoyf, the card types in your graveyard. All right, well, I said all that and I don't know the answer.
Yeah, but I mean, that is in part one of the things that we are here to do, which is if we don't have the answer, to clearly state the question. Is like, that's also part of the review.
Look at that powerful academic rigor that you're applying to this. I like this. Yeah.
As the flavor text of this card suggests, the pure simplicity of truth admits neither delusion nor pretense.
Hell yeah.
Simplicity of truth. That's the thing that all of the Magic rules, all the comprehensive rules are for, is for the simplicity of truth.
A game that basically works until you think too hard about it, and now you don't know anything.
I'm still left confused and unsure about the relationship between Urza Saga and Blood Moon. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, exactly. And the relevance of the rules is also related to the power level. So before knowing whether a ruling's relevant, you have to know whether the card will actually see play.
We've talked a little bit about playing it proactively along your things. Against which decks would you put this in your sideboard, bring this in from your sideboard, etc.?
Good question. Yeah. I would say that, like, Giant Growth and such are not cards that you're sideboarding against.
Unless
I guess maybe the closest I can get to that is like a prowessy spellslingery sort of thing, where my opponent has like the prowessy plot creature who, like, every time he casts a spell, it gets 2 extra power. Well, this prevents any of that power gain from happening, and like Monstrous Rage no longer does anything.
Tim, can you tell me one of the first cards banned in Modern after it became a format? So not starting on the ban list, but added to the ban list first once it became played.
Is that the Shoal? The red
Yes,
Shoal?
I'm thinking of Blazing Shoal.
Hell yeah.
If Blazing Shoal became legal, Solemn Cantor is a thing that you might play in response to that. And or if it does work on specific copy things, there's a world where you play this in like Eldrazi or against Eldrazi Mimic sort of openings, where somebody wants to do like, this really works on the play, but you're on the play, they cast 3 Eldrazi Mimics, you cast Solemn Cantor, they cast a, Reality Smasher or whatever, and you're like, hey, you're not 4/5s, you're 2/1s. Which that might, delay things enough for you then to be able to cast your Wrath of God or your who knows what.
Yeah, this has like a decent number of applications against decks that are looking to invest in their creatures, which is a decent number of decks. Not all decks. Does a Prowessy deck have a bunch of removal that can kill a 2 toughness creature? Probably. So, like, if my opponent casts their Monstrous Rage and their, Giant Growth, and then just casts a shock on this thing, all those effects, I think, kick back in. Killing this is dies to Doomblade, I guess, but
thinking about its peculiar relationship with counters compared to the Virgil card. Thinking about specifically something like Walking Ballista. This card makes it so Walking Ballista goes straight to the graveyard no matter what mana is spent to cast it.
Yeah, 0/0 kind of Hydra stuff, yeah.
Exactly, yeah. It's an XX, or no, yeah, it's a 0/0 that enters with it, XX to cast, yeah, to get the counters. So the counters don't keep it in play; it just enters the graveyard directly, effectively. But then your opponent can Agatha's Soul Cauldron, exile the Ballista, put a +1/+1 counter on a creature that they do have, that does have at least 1 toughness. And then that creature can go, I'd like to remove my counters and kill Solemn Cantor. Like, that those counters might not be useful for, like, adding power to take you out as a player, but those counters are around. And if your opponent goes, okay, I'm going to stack my creatures with a whole bunch of counters and then see if I can get something that removes your Solemn Cantor before you wipe the board or play another like restrictive effect, before you play a Virgil, before you play a... So this could be part of a lock. This could be something that stops, again, something like a Blazing Shoal or particular copy strategies. But I do think specifically against counter strategies, it might be much more difficult. Unless you're trying to block infect creatures, which Solemn Cantor is very good at, I think.
That's true, yeah.
Because that damage is only dealt in the form of -1/-1 counters. It's not also marked damage. And so Solemn Cantor can block a 20/20 infect creature every turn forever.
That's true. Good against infect. I want to be playing this as like a 50-50 split of enable and hate, right? I want to have my Moon Shadows in my deck to take advantage of that, while I'm also slowing down some percentage of decks. So I could just leave this in my main deck, know that I'm playing this basically all the time. And I think it's a sweet card. Part of the cool thing about this Hate Bear challenge is people finding all kinds of new rules to break. Like we had the like players can't discard, or the word can't is forbidden. Finding new things to hate on is a very fun thing.
I do think specifically thinking about it in relation with Moon Shadow compared to other Death Shadow effects, where Death Shadow and Dress Down, which removes all abilities, removes that downside. This works kind of like Dress Down, but for -1 counters. So you can play Moonshadow. Moonshadow into Dress Down, I don't think is very good. Moonshadow into Solemn Cantor works like a Dress Down would for other shadow effects. And if your opponent removes Solemn Cantor, you're like, okay, I'm gonna keep playing. I'm still got a Moonshadow in play.
Yeah, yeah.
A cantor is a musical thing.
Yeah.
So someone who recites or sings the solemn texts, and that's a 2/2 that certainly restricts. Our next submission is from Wooberg Nick. It's C major. It's 2 blue mana. It's 2 blue mana for a 2/3 creature Merfolk Knight. Mythic rare. That's exciting. Okay, it's got a few abilities here. You can pay a single blue mana to exile this creature with 2 time counters on it, and it gains Suspect. You can spend 1 generic mana to give this creature +1 power, -1 toughness, or -1 power, +1 toughness until end of turn. Kind of a flailing sort of thing. And then its third ability is your opponents can't attack with 3 or more creatures unless their powers only increase in equal intervals or their toughness only decrease in equal intervals. 1, 2, and 3, and 2, 4, 6, and 3, 6, 9 are examples of equal intervals. Flavor text: the octaval order prefers a pitched battle.
So the first 2 parts of this are kind of Morphling-y, which is like an old, I mean, speaking of old cards, like an old beater that had like sort of the ability to change its size and protect itself. The purpose of the first ability there, I think overall would be like, hey, someone's going to use a kill spell on this. If I got a blue mana up, I can send this thing away. I don't get it back for 2 turns, but it's better than it dying. And then I can shrink and grow it. It's a 2/3, so I could get it up to a 4/1 or down to a 0/5. So I have some flexibility in the size of the creature. And then the restriction here is pretty new. Can't attack with 3 or more creatures. So if my opponent only wants to attack with 1 or 2 creatures, this ability doesn't matter. Just to kind of like get the baseline going for this card. If my opponent's considering attacking with a number of creatures, they have to space out those creatures. So like if they try to attack with 3 1/1s, they can't. If they try to attack with 2 1/1s and a 2/2, they can't. They have to have creatures whose power goes up, right? Like a 1, 2, 3. Or does up or down matter? Because 3, 2, 1 and 1, 2, 3 are kind of the same, right?
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, it just depends on how you count it, right? It's like you can point to them in any order.
The powers only increase in equal intervals. Isn't that equivalent to saying like their powers only decrease in equal intervals?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, cool. And you have 2 chances of fulfilling that because either their toughness have to go up and down or their power have to go up and down. So like if you have all 3 of these creatures have 1 power, but they have, 1, 2, and 3 toughness, then you're good. Or the same thing with power. Just in kind of general guesses, I feel like this is going to restrict attacks somewhat. If I think of a clogged limited board, I won't be able to alpha strike, is what this sort of says. I will be able to attack with some number of my creatures, probably 1 or 2 of which are too small to really want to attack with, in order to get a big attack going. Like, unless you're lucky, you can't attack with 3 or more creatures.
Yeah. Especially answering anything that makes a bunch of the same creature. Whether that is like lots and lots of 1/1s or 2/2s or 3/3s, all of which are things that happen. Okay, I'm trying to think through. If your opponent puts out Narcomoeba, Prized Amalgam, and Bloodghast, then they can get a 1, 2, 3.
1, 2, 3. Yeah.
Coming straight from the graveyard. So that might be a dredge answer to the C major, where the Narcomoeba can fly over. The Bloodghast, you don't care if it dies. The but then it's
Yeah.
like, okay, attack in with one of each of those. Can I attack in with 3 Narcomoebas, 3 Bloodghasts, and 3 Prized
No.
Amalgams?
I guess this sort of says you can't attack. You almost certainly can't attack with 4 or more creatures, and you might be able to attack with 3 creatures like that. In terms of heuristic power, there are cases where you are fine. Like you play that creature, that 1/1 that creates a 2/2, a 3/3, and a 4/4. Okay, well, all 4 of those
Mhm.
can attack. But like if it's really hard to attack with 4 or more creatures, and it's 50-50 that you can attack with 3 creatures. So I'm going to call it. I don't know what the actual number would be.
Mhm. I bring up hardened scales a lot in these episodes. I
Yeah.
do think there's worlds where you can attack in with a 0, 1, 2, 3, 4 in certain like affinity-esque openings with a scales sort of deck, or with certain affinity decks
Yeah.
where you're able to just choose where you put your counters
Mm.
smartly to
Hmm.
make a sequence of things like that. This
Yeah.
being a 2/3 really punishes attacking in with 1, 2, 3, or even one,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4,
Yeah.
uh, in a kind of charming way, such that, well, do I want to attack in with 2, 4, 6? Maybe
Mm.
I want to attack in with 3, 4, 5, which isn't listed as one of the intervals, but I think works
Yes.
as an
I would
interval.
read it that way. Yeah. 3, 4, 5 would work. Yeah.
Or a 3, 1, a 3, 2, and a 3, 3, perhaps.
Yeah. Yeah. This is still coming back to like you have like a 50-50 shot of being able to attack with 3 creatures. Like your opponent has a chance of rigging it. And then 4
Mhm.
plus, I guess part of what I'm thinking through with some of these hate bears is like if I have 4 plus creatures in play of different sizes, I'm just as likely to have like 3 or 4 creatures and a removal spell. And this guy gets like turned off for basically 2 turns, even if you have mana up to save it.
Mhm.
So, in the cases where it's actually slowing my opponent down, like it's preventing them from the 4-person attack, a lot of things are going to get them out of this. If this were an enchantment that's like basically slammed on the board, can't answer. I'm not advocating that it should be, but I'm just saying if this were like a really hard to remove thing, now natural gameplay, I might actually be stopping some stuff. But as a creature, I can make this go away for 2 turns. My 4 creatures are going to kill someone in 2 turns, I'm only a little bit worried about this guy, I guess is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
um,
I do think it's interesting that it's like Morphling-esque ability, the +1/-1 or -1
yeah.
+1, is a little bit funny alongside this being a mythic rare, because it's
Mm,
like, hey, if my opponent has a C major and I have 2 C majors plus another creature, I
mm.
can almost always make sure I can attack in with 3 creatures,
Like
because
in the C major bear match, you're saying?
yeah, yeah. It just like, okay, well, that's never going to happen in limited, because I'm not going to have 2 of these and my opponent have 1. These are these are mythic rares.
Hmm.
But perhaps in a constructed thing, in a merfolk thing where we don't just all have island
Hmm.
walk and ignore each other's blockers, or whatever. I mean, maybe even with island walk, this would be effective or useful. But it's funny that it is good at getting around opponents' C majors in a way that's like,
Mm.
that's
Funny.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's neat.
Yeah. The more common these like plus minus water shifty kind of creatures there are, the less functional C major is.
Yeah,
My opponent would, yeah. Okay. I see what you're saying.
I think this is a admirable pun right from the beginning.
Yeah.
Uh, SEA
Yeah.
major, like a merfolk
Uh-huh.
knight sort of captain
Yep.
riding a seahorse, big trident, being a pun on, of course, I believe the most common key there is in Western music, which is
Sure.
C major.
At least when you're learning piano 100% of the time.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, it is a fun reference. I think this is Voldalian Knight for way back from Fallen Empires. This art here. This is a picture that I
Sure.
always liked. Sometimes my hesitation is like how complicated a clause is compared to its play value.
Hmm.
Like, and this nudges closer into the silver border, not because it
Yeah.
doesn't function, but just in terms of like I'm trying to read this and have fun and maybe never cast it. Or, I mean, if I am casting, I'm not trying to say that this is a bad card, but if I am casting it, I'm not like, haha, I've done it. Like, it's more like, let me inflict this clause on the table. This is the commander deck that's like, I want to just play a weird card against you guys to make everyone laugh and have get puzzled by a card.
I agree that I would consider this to be prime material for silver border or acorn. As we say, not because it can't function in the normal rules, but because it is doing the type of pun work into a work of art as a card, like as a reference point, that I think like makes sense as a silver border or acorn thing. And maybe there could be an acorn merfolk deck that this is a exciting part of, so merfolk players can have a format that they can enjoy. This works as a bear for me. I'm almost always on board for a 2-mana 2/3 that can be doing this sort of limiting. It's limiting a really specific thing, and the ability for opponents to get around it. If this were ever frequently played, then your opponents have counterplay to work with. Like, as you say, either getting this off the board for 2 turns or just playing your creatures in a different arrangement or sequence.
I guess it maybe makes your removal more fun because you could break the middle of a chain. Like you could destroy the 2 out of a 1, 2, 3. So maybe you have some extra power to make this clause on basically 80-90% of the time. Like I just fire off a 1-mana unsummon, like a bounce spell. That might combine with C major to prevent any more than 2 creatures from ever attacking.
Sure.
So you can enable it yourself too. You can overdrive your hate ability here.
The other thing that I often think about, this is a musical theme on its own. It hits the exile, it hits the hate bear, but even more specifically of a musical, this spelling makes me think of what's sometimes called Hawaii Part 2, and other times called the Miracle Musical. With its big opening song, Dream Suite in C major. Wait, is that the closing song or the opening song? That would be the last song. I always get the the opening. The opening is Introduction to the Snow. The closing is Dream Suite in C major. They have the same intro. Anyways, Dream Suite in SEA major, Miracle Musical Hawaii Part 2. Good stuff.
Thumbs up.
It's a fun. Right. It's, as far as I know, not a like actual performed musical. It's like a concept album sort of thing. It's by the folks who do, or some of the folks, I want to say Tally Hall is the name of the group, like actual Cannibal Shia LaBeouf sort of
all right
sort of stuff. But it's a really interesting weird song. They have a whole song that's played like forward and then backwards in the middle of the musical. That's really, really creative stuff. I'll put a link in the Discord. People can check out Dream Suite in C major.
Hell yeah. Alrighty, we got one more card left. This one's from Player's Grade, and it's called Lullabying Baritone. White for a 2/2, so 2-mana 2/2. It's a creature bear, so we're extra bear. The art description is picture of a singing bear. At the beginning of each end step, exile all creatures with counters on them, then return them to the battlefield under their owner's control. Wow.
Which can wipe counters that weren't gotten through the creature's own like enters abilities, or if you are playing a graft deck and you've handed off the counter, I mean, like, then the other counters are gone. But okay, if you've moved your counters onto like an Ozolith, like onto a non-creature thing, then you can blink your creatures, they re-enter. Now we've got more +1/+1 counters.
Yeah. This is a little bit more in the enable zone than in the hate side. The thing that makes this appealing as an enabler is that it's a really cheap thing that, with some deck building, could blink multiple creatures a turn. Just like a baseline recipe would be, creatures enter with a +1/+1 counter on them. And then I just have a bunch of creatures that have, when this enters, draw a card. When this enters, exile blah, blah, blah. When this enters, blah, 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 blah. There are a bunch of exile decks that work like this. This is a really successful, some might say tedious, commander archetype. And this is a really cheap way of doing that. Now it's a creature, it's vulnerable, blah, 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 blah. But this is a way to get a really powerful effect that I think is proven. And also slow your opponent down too. Like if you have ways of handing out counters, you can start messing with your opponent's creatures and just having a great time.
I think there's also a hidden secret out here, which is it gives potentially all your creatures vigilance.
Yeah.
You can do whatever you want them. You can tap them for mana. You can tap them to attack. You can tap to do anything. And then at the end of your turn, you are like blinking them, you're exiling them, and then returning them back to the battlefield. You're also doing, I'm sure there's a better name for it, but a brand effect. You're returning creatures to the battlefield under their owner's control.
All right.
So if in addition to the other like blink and counter things, you're like handing creatures out to your opponents, you're doing Zerda stuff, you're doing what's the Tarkier?
Oh, the Humble Defector?
Yes, Humble Defector. Thank you.
You also said Zerda. Zerda is one of the companions. I don't think that's the card that you meant to say.
Okay. Zedru?
Zedru. There you go.
Yes. I confuse Zerda and Zedru.
Yeah, you said Zerda in the last one too, to mean Zedru.
Listen, Hydroid Krasis is Bounding Krasis, and Zerda is Zedru.
Yeah.
And I know many things.
I'm not trying to hassle you. I'm just,
Tim, can you tell me which Kodama the North Tree and the South Tree are?
North is the burly, tramply, burly one. South.
Gotcha. We can move on.
I got another thing that this is good with. Final Fantasy Saga creatures. Reuse that first ability every turn.
Yeah.
Actually, that's like kind of busted level. Give me Yojimbo and or give me Odin. At the beginning of each end step, destroy target creature and opponent controls.
Yeah, it's each end step. It's not going to be just like that player exiles all creatures they control with counters. Wow.
Oh, even Brynhilde, the neglected rare, exile the top card of your library during any turn in which you put a lore counter on a saga. You may play that card. All right, so I just exile like a card for each player in the turn cycle, and then on my turn, it ticks up, and then I can cast 1 of 5 cards or 3 of 5 cards from that exile stack. Yeah, we got the combo here.
Yeah. I mean, I would love a card to play with lots of the Final Fantasy summon sagas. That's a neat archetype to play. I think for everything we think of that can limit your opponent, we're coming up with 3 that can enable you. So I think this definitely is sitting. It's funny that it is a lullabying baritone, but it wakes everyone up, and
it wakes up the summons. Yeah, it does the opposite. Yeah, you're right. That's funny. I mean, like I said in the beginning, this card is sick and people would want to play it. So like, that's like the main thing you want to do when you're designing a Magic card. And how much of it's a hate bear? Yeah, that's just for fun,
And if my opponent is doing, I bring up Agatha's Soul Cauldron a lot. If my opponent is trying to do Agatha's Soul Cauldron things, and they've, by doing that, put +1 counters on 3 or 4 of their creatures, Lullabying Baritone can say, okay, as long as you have stuff in your graveyard or anything, you can keep re-enabling 1 creature per turn cycle. But 1 creature per turn cycle is not what you want to be doing. You want to be having a bunch of different creatures that you can be spreading these effects on to make it more overwhelming to your opponent and everything. This is certainly a bear. This certainly hits music, and this certainly hits exile.
Yeah. Alrighty. Well, that's our 8 cards. We somehow got like a deluxe length episode out of 8 cards again.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe just because there's so many cool wrinkles to these cool cards that are being submitted. A lot of new technology, a lot of fun stuff to talk about. And people loosen the belt a little bit with these design challenges and pack maybe a couple extra words onto these cards for us. But what are you thinking for your pick of the week here?
All right, pick of the week. I think my pick this week is going to be Dazzling Idol from Pet.
Oh, okay.
Specifically, I really like the way it's two, like the choose one, the two modes of its abilities really neatly interact with its creatures with power less than this creature's power enter tapped ability. And not that I don't also like some of the complicated cards and some of the neat like integrated reference into stuff, but this is so kind of straightforward to play. It's other than figuring out which like counters on creatures are +1 and which ones are stun, which hopefully you can use different little game objects to indicate those things. This feels really clean, and all of the parts of the abilities like work together in ways that make sense. And I think it's fun when a card sings together like that.
Hell yeah. I think I said it while we were reviewing the card. I think I'm going to pick Virgil, Rewriter of Tales. The thing I'm going off of is this is the most hatebear card of these, while also being like a cool card. This can hit a variety of strategies. So Virgil was the one that like, if you try to put counters on things, you ristic it sort of. You destroy that thing instead unless they pay 2, which is a pretty steep cost to pay. People can get past it, but it makes cards a lot worse. It makes sagas way worse. It makes planeswalkers much harder to use. The hardened scales, blah blah blah. So it's like good at all those things. It also has the hatebear thing of being a 2-mana 2/2. The flash allows it to play sort of an interactive game where I can keep up a counter spell or this, or I can keep up like a protection spell in this, or I can have 2 different options in my hand. So it's good at all those things. You could wreck a lot of commander tables with this, being played at the right time. And then people will want to kill it. It's very lightning roddy, which is a thing that you really want in your commander deck as well. Your 2-mana plays to demand, the 1 removal spell your opponent has in their hand. So yeah, that's my pick. Rexer's card.
We've got our July design challenge going underway, and it's an exciting one. The main challenge is Incarnation Day. Design an incarnation that could be part of a cycle. That could be one of the existing cycles. You could indicate in a way that's like, that seems like it could be part of a new cycle. Lots and lots of options that you can have there. We've got optional bonus points here. Incarnation. This card would be printable in Foundations 2 or Foundations Jumpstart. And then we've got 5 extra bonus points based on the color of the card.
Yeah.
In Coronation, if your card is white, its name is a regal virtue. Ink Carnation, if your card is blue, its name is about ink or octopi. Incarnation, if your card is black, its name deals with the Gnostic separation of mind and body. Intarnation, if your card is red, its name is a cowboy word. And Incarnation, if your card is green, its name deals with flowers. Got lots of examples of that in the previous episode's description and in the Discord, in the Design Challenge channel and thread there. So you can come on down to the Discord, submit your cards, take a look at the exciting designs that are already underway.
Yeah. That'll be due at the very end of July. The 6 bonus points on this, hitting more than like 2 or 3 is going to be really tough because you got to like get the naming of the card in there. But I'm sure people will try. The bonus points are bonus points. Give us a cool incarnation. Give us some incarnation technology. Give us a way to like have a cycle of cool, impressive creatures that all do kind of the same thing, or take the place of an existing card in an existing cycle. That's the main focus. That's the thing we want you guys to hit.
Yeah.
We're always looking forward to those, and I don't know. I'm expecting some pretty sick cards out of this.
Absolutely, and we can go. Okay, how much does this represent? This word.
Innocence.
How much does it embody? Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm quite excited. And as Tim said, those will be due July 31st, and you can submit them here on the Discord. You can find the link in the episode notes. Yeah,
that's it for the podcast for the week. Discord's where all the action is. Popcorn just wrapped up, but I'm sure we'll have a new event popping up soon that people can jump into. And Yeah. They join all the other discussions that we got going on. Anything else you want to tell people about?
I will be Pod for Castmas is exciting and underway. You
Was it out yet?
know, and if you check out the following week, I think will be a especially educational episode.
Oh, okay.
We've got a lot that we learned with a guest expert
Oh, Professor
about
Juliet.
some student Julia, even
Oh,
in this case. Yeah. But I'm looking forward to that. You can find I'll be Pod for Castmas wherever podcasts are found. I'll also link those in the Discord.
All right. That's about it for what we've got. Find us on the Discord. Come chat us up. And most of all, everyone, thank you for listening.
And always remember.